Hello, we are live. Welcome. We're going to do the round 17 Game Day Squad Fantasy Review. I'm excited. The round is literally just wrapped up. Cal, we haven't got the final scores in yet, but we will know everything by the end of this recording. I'm super excited to dive into this round. There's been some monster performances and a couple of disappointments. That's for sure. It's been a bit of a roller coaster of a round for some.
Yeah, mate, it's good to be here. Good to be here just after your Swannies have been touched up by the Saints too. We haven't spoken about it yet, but I can't wait to dive into that game. Put the fantasy talk aside for a second because wowee. But you're right, some really, really interesting results this week. Some really good players that I think went huge and some absolute stinkers. So I don't know how you feel. We, of course, like you said, I haven't checked the leaderboard all weekend, so I have no idea how I'm going. And honestly, I don't think it's going to be good. I made some big calls starting with my Max Gorn week comment. It was not Max Gorn week. And I'm going to pay the price for it. But yeah, I'm keen to talk about it because lots to talk about. So yeah,
for sure, mate, for sure. Well, yeah, we'll dive into that later. I actually had that down written as a note. I'll give you some context, but very soon, I think. But let's get into this round, man. I'm pumped. We are going to be talking about, firstly, ship you said. So this is where we're going to take a guess at a statement or a thought that either one of us had for the round. Cal, I reckon you start us off. What do you think I said or thought this round?
I reckon you sat there this afternoon and you would have thought, man, I hope I accidentally left Trent Rivers in my squad this week. Because I know last week you wanted that back. You wanted it. You were talking up the production and the opportunity and everything you had. And of course, you took him out, I'm thinking, unless I am surprised, but Trent Rivers going ballistic this afternoon against the Eagles. Was I close?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say I exactly thought that, but was I very disappointed? Yes. So you know what? I'll give it to you because,
I'd be disappointed too if I had him in my squad last week. He stinks it up. I take him out and then he goes for 145 this afternoon. So you know what? You're probably not alone. You're probably not alone. So
not alone. Well, I feel like I could pick on you with Ken Hinckley in this segment every week.
You did that last time. Come on.
I'm not going to do it, but I know that you definitely said, Ken, what are you doing? We're not supposed to win like this against a team like this. You would have been devastated with the result. Even though you won, I know you were devastated.
There were a few mixed emotions, but come on, do you have a fantasy one to give me? You can't throw the Ken because you know
I do. I do. I've got one. Don't worry.
Unfortunately, I think about Ken pretty much every single day of my life. So yeah, you're probably going to be right. Give me an actual fantasy one. But yes, I did think that, just for the record.
Alrighty. You alluded to it before, but I was definitely going to say that I've messed up every time that I say it's Max Gawn week. People need to hop off. Everyone needs to bench him.
Yeah, absolutely. He was terrible.
Injury.
His round was terrible. Being
Injury
subbed off was just awful for fantasy. He was dominating too. He wasn't getting the ball around the ground like I would have liked. But in terms of the hit out count, he just didn't. I swear it felt like he didn't lose one. So to see him hurt his foot, yeah, that one stung. So, yep, you definitely were right. I was like, you know what? That's twice in a row I've told everyone to drop everything and get Max Gawn into your squad.
I know.
And that's twice in a row he's scored about 60 for different reasons. So,
if anyone else had Max Gawn, throw a comment down now. We are here for you. Both of us started Max Gawn this round. At least when we did the preview show, we did. I'm not exactly sure who you've ended up rolling out with, but seeing as that's something you thought this round, I'm pretty confident in saying that you would have rolled out with that Gawn that you had in the preview. But
it would have been a hell of a zag if I tell everyone it's Max Gawn week and then I turn around and have him out of my squad by today. you wouldn't be able to trust a single thing I ever said again. So I made one change, but he's not it.
Okay, fair enough. I did make some changes, I will say.
How many? Give them to me. Let me prepare myself.
3.
Oh, tough.
3 changes.
What are you doing?
One of them helped you. Let's say that. One of them did you a great service. So you'll see. Let's go. Let's get into game 1. No changes here from me. I rolled out the 3 players that I thought I was going to, and I can see that you have done the same. You have that platinum merit in this one. You would have been pretty stoked with the performance.
Yeah, let's start with him because he was absolutely on fire to start. What do you have? 20 touches at halftime, and for whatever reason,
I got the wrong one up here.
Nah, yeah, I'll update them. Maybe you have. Well, I'll keep talking about him. You try and
keep going. No, this is the right one. Goodness.
What do you have? 16, I think, off the top of my head. Don't have the numbers in front of me in the first quarter. Up to 20, and I'm sitting here going, "You beauty! He is going to tear up here. He's on track for 40." And then he struggled to even get 30 at the end. It felt like he was sitting on 29 for the whole last quarter. But fortunately for him, the damage was done. The early goal I was up and about for. I was sitting. I was texting you about it because I knew you knew that I'd played the Platinum Zero, even though I knew you rolled out the Silver.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, I want to start there because he was fantastic. How did it feel knowing that I had the Platinum?
It didn't feel great, but you know what? I thought it was pretty similar to last round, but you can't win it on Friday. You last week texted me as well. You were up and about on the Friday game. Fantasy games aren't won after the first. So although I knew that I was in a little bit of a hole because you made a very great decision with, that. It didn't feel great, but at least I still had merit. It's not like I didn't start Zach Merritt and didn't get any of his points for this magnificent game he had. But having the 1.3 on your platinum would have been very, very tidy. And you would have been feeling a particular type of way after this because you pretty much nailed all the good selections for this game, other than maybe side bottom or Ridley. I know neither of us rolled those two, but side bottom, don't think too many people did. Ridley, definitely a strong consideration for squads. And I reckon a lot of coaches would have gone there.
Yeah, so he obviously had his dud game last week. I think he would have scared a lot of people. And then it wasn't a terrific matchup for him. So we did say there were a few other better ones we liked. But I reckon a few people would have rolled with him and got that 137. That would have been awesome. But yeah, just quickly, let's talk about Caldwell because he was terrific as well. So I didn't want to jump up and down too much about him, but because we both have him and I think a lot of the top coaches this week will have him. The majority of coaches, I reckon, will have him this week. Just continues to be an awesome forward option. So yeah, no surprises there, but he was fantastic. Let's talk about the other side. Let's get into the Nick Dacos game because I thought it was a very up and down game from him. What did you see of it?
Yeah, it was. It was. Nick Dacos was really great in bursts throughout this one. It just seemed like there were times where he would go missing. He wouldn't get involved. But to his credit, for someone who only played pretty good in bursts, at least I thought, 128 fantasy points is a pretty phenomenal score to take away. So
yeah, and I think that's for him. That's about par. So I'd imagine with your silver, if someone offered you 128, are you taking that for Dacos? Taking it and running?
Sure. So yeah, I was pretty happy with putting the silver on Merit, Dacos. Got the return for them both. Can't complain. Something I do know is Crisp. I don't know how many people would have started someone like him, but he started the game on fire. He was kicking goal after goal. He was just raking in the fantasy points. That was very interesting to see. I was like, what a surprising player to just step up to the plate and have like 50 fantasy points in a flash.
Well, what about Sidebottom as well? All the old boys bringing it back. Sidebottom just top scoring, crazy. And then even Dylan Shield in his first game back was really solid, 129. Keep an eye on him because, wowee. And then, just so I don't think anyone rolled out Sidebottom. If you rolled out Sidebottom, you're either mates with him or you were really short on cards this week. But yeah, outside of that, I think it's pretty sort of stock standard. Trying to look at some other pods, maybe people would have gone McGrath. I don't know why, but he only scored 82. I don't think that's the play, and I don't think he'd be the play. The real one I want to talk about here, Nick Martin, because I almost put him into my squad. There was a moment there where I was sitting here and I'm going, do I swap out my sixth midfielder for Nick Martin? And I did not. I didn't do that one, but I did make that swap. I'll give you the tease here. I swapped out one of my midfielders. But you know what? Pretty happy I didn't bring him. He started pretty hot as well, but he definitely tarred away as almost as the Bombers came back into the game. It's like as they came back into the game, their accumulators were getting less and less of the easy touches. So, yeah, a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, it was a hard ball get type of game. It was really contested, and it really suited the likes of Caldwell and Merritt. They just seemed like they were getting a constant stream of fantasy points throughout. There was just never a moment where they weren't adding something to their tally for the game. So, yeah, they were definitely, in my opinion, what seemed like the two best on. And, of course, pretty fantastic result as well. If you're a Bomber fan, if you're a D, so fantasy aside, you would have been stoked with the way that all wrapped up.
Yeah, definitely. I want to call out something with the CBAs because Dylan Shields had 57%. So that was a bit of a surprise for me, him being thrown so much into it to start with. Sam Durham as well, 43%. He looked really, really good. So I was actually lucky. I picked up one of his cards on the transfer market heading into last week, as you know. So he was one of the cheap diamonds that I picked up. I'm pretty happy with him. And if he's going to start getting time in that midfield, I think questions are going to be starting to be asked. Who are their best midfield rolling forward? And of course, Parrish isn't even in there yet. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how what this Essendon midfield and their CBAs and stuff look like by the end of the season.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some curveballs, some wild cards thrown in there. That's for sure. But yeah, fantastic game. Plenty of fantasy points to go around. You can just see the plentiful amount of the top 10 there. So would be happy if you had a couple players in this one. That's for sure. You would have started your round on the right foot. So let's get into it. I reckon we've summarized that quite well, Cal.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Let's get on to the next one.
Game 2. Now, thank goodness Kerm is no longer with us because this would be the toughest game to talk about for the round if we still had our good friend here. Mate, the Suns can't win on the road. That is the big headline that comes out of it. Fantasy aside, and the fantasy implications of the Suns as well, playing on the road. I would love to see their home and away fantasy point differentials because I know it would be a significant difference for a lot of their players. They just can't get it going. Structure.
That's something we're going to look into. We can look into that. Just to clarify, Kerm is still with us. He's just not on the podcast. The phrasing of that. Kerm is very much, but I tell you what.
Have you heard from him this weekend? Maybe.
No, he has turned off his phone, and I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the text message to say he's calling in sick tomorrow, mental health day. I reckon he might need it. Those poor Suns, man. I don't know how he does it. The poor guy. I don't know how. And shout out the Suns supporters. Like I know everyone. There was a lot of people that were going for North. I was hoping Gold Coast came back into that and won it. Just I want to see them play finals. It'd be nice. You live on the Gold Coast now, Tom, so it'd be nice just to have a finals game
Yeah,
for local
true.
crowds. So, but let's talk fantasy.
Let's talk fantasy. Can I start it off with a talking point here, and then maybe we can move on to others? But let's go with Sam Flanders' worst performance of 2024. Now, mind you, that's 99 fantasy points. So let's not freak out. I'm not talking about someone who's gone completely dudded it up and haven't got it. But yeah, look, he hasn't gone under 100 a single time this season. This is now the first. So,
wow, I almost didn't believe that.
Testament to him for how good of a year he's having. But it's pretty crazy that it came in what you would think would be such a good matchup for Sam Flanders. You thought he would come out with 150.
I was telling you, the North matchup isn't what you think it would be. And we've got a big take later on, and it's about about something with that. But yeah, I actually didn't love the matchup against North. But I'm just looking at his stats here. You're saying that he hasn't gone below 100 all season, and he's gone 99, and we're calling that his lowest score, and we're making a deal about him going to 99, which just shows you how insane his season has been. But sure. For me, I'm not reading too much into it. He was, he's still going to be in my squad for the rest of the season. I don't know about you. You played the silver though, as a forward. All right, take your Flanders hat off. As a forward, would you take the 99 with the silver?
No. Like, the only reason I play a silver is because I don't have a bronze, in all honesty. But fortunately for me, it's actually more played in my favor this season than it hasn't because of how good Sam Flanders has been. So having the silver salary cap on him most rounds is actually not an issue. He's probably one of the few players in that position that is like that. But look, could be worse, and that's all I think. Like, if you 99 fantasy points as a forward, you know how tough it can be this season to pick the best 7.
It's not the worst. Yeah, it's not the worst. Yeah. You wouldn't want a lot of them. A lot of them you won't be competing for the prize at the end of the round. But yeah, fair enough. Can I talk before I get to my other player I played in this round? Can I start with Sheasel, because probably a bigger point.
Let's talk about a player you benched and I benched for the first time in a very, very long time. And I think this is a little bit more significant to you because we know you own a Harry Sheasel All-Star card. And I know how hard it is to not play special cards. So you rolled out with none this round, by the way. We'll get into the other one later.
Yeah.
How did this feel? How did it feel watching this, knowing that you had one of the most powerful plays you could have made, and he was phenomenal?
It stung. It definitely stung. You for your ship, you said at the start of the show that you've could have gone a few routes with it, and the two special cards that I have, I reckon I was putting them $1.01 for you to come in with that. So you have veered off there. Yeah. So obviously we came into the round. I'm like, yes, I've got the All-Star card, but if they're not performing, doesn't matter if you've got a special card. And you get a little bit of advantage, but as we know, it's not a huge advantage, but it's still nice a little bit. So for me, he was just trending in the wrong direction. I didn't like the matchup against the Suns. I had thought there were better options, and I was dead wrong. So he had 35 touches, kicked a goal, and it was the other stuff as well. 5 tackles from him that shows you he was getting around the ground. So definitely coming back into my squad next week. I haven't even looked as far to see who they're playing, but big mistake. But I reckon because I know you dropped him as well. Do you reckon many people did?
Oh, look, if you looked at the form, there was good reason to drop him. And then also the matchup as well. Like, the Suns really do match up well against midfielders. And I thought he would be spending a bit of time in the midfield, which he did. But what I didn't realize is that North were going to dominate in that aspect throughout this. So it didn't really come into play. But Sheasel was definitely trending down. But my goodness, what a bounce back, and what a relief of confidence back into people who have been rolling with Sheasel. I think now more than ever, it's like he needs to pretty much be set and forget. He could be matchup proof. And just one more comment on top of it, 21 handballs for Sheasel isn't very common. He was a bit of a handball merchant. Well, that 150 could have easily been 160.
And do you know why that was? I'm just looking here at the numbers. He had 12 ground ball gets, which is 3 more than the next person on the ground. So he wasn't getting it out in space like he used. When he was getting the ball, it was at the bottom of the pack, and the first thing he was doing is just handballing straight up. 10 clearances as well. So I remember we having that discussion and we're like, what about Sheasel going into the midfield? Do we still trust that he's going to be up there with Dacos? Yes. if you have a Harry Shizzle card, you're going to have him for the next 10 years. He looks fantastic. So
he did look really good. He looked
unfortunately, even if you have the card, you still got to play him in the right round, and I did not do that, and neither did you. So,
well, let's go to his teammate Colby McKercher, mate. He played that defender role that at North is just. It might be the GOAT of all roles when it comes to fantasy. Whoever subs into that spot just seems to top score for the round for North. It's Fisher some weeks. McKercher had his chance this round to step into that. And my goodness, he didn't waste it one little bit. 37 disposals with 27 kicks leading to that 150 you can see in front. What did you make out of his performance, Cal?
Came a bit out of nowhere, right? So he hasn't played since round 9. So I don't know that anyone would have played him this week. But yeah, completely caught me off guard. The thing is, he is a midfielder. So he'd have to show a bit of consistency for me over a few weeks before I, think about dropping like a Geordie Dawson or someone for him. But yeah, definitely one to watch, hey?
Definitely one to watch. And Tristan Cherry, we spoke about no wits in this one.
Yeah.
And although, this was just going to be a good matchup for him, I almost regret not playing Cherry over Gawn. And of course, I couldn't have foresaw what was going to come with Gawn. But my goodness, if you told me I could take 134 out of my bench ruck spot for this round, I would absolutely snap that up with a heartbeat. So Cherry is just having such a fantastic season. I know going into the season, he was considered probably a top 5 ruck, but more towards that 5 to 4 range. He's cementing himself as a top 3 one right now. He's playing that well.
Yeah, I definitely was happy with that one. So we spoke about who was going to be the second person you pair with Gawn this week. And honestly, there were probably a few people that I think are around the same. We'll have to pull up the numbers as we go through. But unless I'm missing someone off the top of my head, I think who I am. We'll talk about it in the next game because there actually was a clear winner. But I was looking around some of the other guys as well.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of Marshall. There's 2 guys you could have gone. Forget me. We'll get to them. So you know what? It looks like a good score, 135. But even then, if you've gone Cherry as the pod ruck this week or the non-Gawn Marshall, you've missed out, and we'll get to that. So. Yeah, dampeners. Because you know what? If you told me at the start of the game 134 for Tristan Cherry, I would have bitten your hand off.
So 100%. Noah Anderson played well. This is one of the players I subbed out. So you would have known that in the preview, I had a silver Noah Anderson in my squad. Upon, we'll get into some later. I do regret this decision, I'll be honest with you. I do regret taking Noah Anderson out. I really would have liked that score. I just thought that, I had some concerns with the Suns on the road because I was having a little dive. We might need to release something on my Twitter this week where we can take a deep dive into that and show the numbers. But I did a little investigation myself, and I saw definitely a significant difference in terms of Noah. And I thought that might impact this game, although the matchup, was pretty good. And I thought he would be the most dominant Suns player. But look, he was by far not the most dominant on the field. There was how many? Five Kangas in front of him. So bit of a strange one. Not sure how many people would have picked it the way that it went, especially with like Simpkin outscoring him. But yeah, nonetheless, still a good game from Noah. 124, you take it.
Yeah, definitely. What we say normally about 125 base you take from your midfielder. So I want to know who you subbed him out for. I'm keen to get into that. But yeah.
Yep. I reckon we've summarised this game pretty well, man. Anyone else you want to cover before we flick it over to game 3?
No, I just want to Ned Moyle, 112. I just want to call him out because I think we thought he was going to be a bit of a walkover this week. So Cherry still had a good score, but he still did win a fair share of hitouts. So yeah, keep an eye on him. It's not just what's his name's out for the Suns. So match up your ruckman against him. He's a little bit better as he's shown. So yeah, just shout out to old Moyle there.
Nice. Good Moyle. Well in.
Well in, Moyle.
Pretty tough ask to come up against one of the hottest rucks in the comp. But yeah, look, held his own somewhat. Let's get into game 3. Now, I made a Marcus Bontempelli substitution. And that was one of my midfielders. So I went Noah to Bont.
Well, as you recall, I had a big tumbleweed sitting on this screen on Thursday night when we showed our teams, squads.
I do. Actually, true. You subbed in Bont.
I subbed him in. I swapped out.
Let's start there, okay? Because I want to quickly add, if you looked at the form, especially the biggest consideration when you're picking a midfielder for the Dogs is Treloar or Bont. Let's be honest. There's no real other people you're thinking of. Form would tell you have to go Marcus Bontempelli in this one. He has been on an absolute tear. Treloar's actually dropped off just that little bit off that early season form that he was in. So fantasy points wise, if you had a look at it, you'd think, this is a Marcus Bontempelli week and he could dominate in all aspects. But we both got this one wrong. Treloar outscored him nearly by 30.
Yeah, and, we're talking about him like he's terrible. He actually was pretty terrible in the game. He got saved by those couple of goals.
He had a big fourth quarter, a really big fourth quarter to save it.
Needed it.
Oh, thank goodness.
But that's how that fourth quarter is kind of how I thought the whole game would go. I thought that we'd get absolutely blitzed by the Dogs. Unfortunately not. Ken did his thing. And yeah, the guys were obviously played really, really well. So yeah, I feel like a few coaches would have played Bont this week. It would have hurt a few people, but you're right. That fourth quarter sort of saved it from being just a completely, you're out of the price.
A horrible decision. It went from a horrible decision to I can live with that decision.
Well,
very quickly.
Yeah. Well, I was just looking before at the score of the person that I picked originally, and so I've actually made an upgrade. So I've actually done the right thing here, but it doesn't feel like it, and it did not feel like it on Saturday when Bont was playing in those first few quarters.
Well, in theory, I only missed out on 8 fantasy points. So overall, for me, I was pretty content with this. That fourth quarter, as mentioned, saved it. Cow, let's talk about your Port Power, your star duo, and Connor Rozee and Zach Butters. I think we start with Rozee. You have a prize card. Rozee, this is one of the only times I've seen you bench him whilst healthy. And I knew watching this that you either subbed him in and didn't want to tell me to surprise me right now, or you were absolutely livid with it. And unfortunately, it was the latter. He was dominant.
He had
dominant.
I think he had 17 first quarter touches and should have had a goal as well.
And he should have had a goal. And he got one late, but could have had 2.
And it was one of those things where if you don't know that someone doesn't like Ken, or you don't know that someone's a fantasy player, like fantasy enthusiast like we are, you'd be like, why is this person hating how this game is going for his club right now? And Rozee absolutely dominating, Power dominating, and I'm sitting there being like, oh my God, here we go. This is awful.
Yeah.
So
you've got your midfield absolutely cooking. Not only that, Ollie Wines coming into the mix. Horn Francis having such good clearance work as well.
Yeah.
And I knew you would be sitting there still disappointed. You can't please Port fans at the moment.
No, but he was terrific, right? There's times where I'm thinking, why did I go with Rozee? But no, this shows why. He was awesome. He was awesome. And he's going to come straight back into my squad. He would have scored me 234 as his prize card, Tom. So that's what I left on the table. But fortunately, I snuck him into my challenger squad. So it's not all doom and gloom. I did play him.
At least you got the points. Not in the classic comp. Yeah,
not the competition I care the most about. So good old multi comps let me still slide him in. So you can. What would you call the challenger comp? The 2s? What's the champion? We've got to figure that out. He's playing in the 2s regardless.
Resis. He's playing Resis.
Yeah, and I had a Diamond Butters in the champion, so he was racking up a lot of those points. So it was good to see. But it's consistency with these two guys. We know how good they can be. You just want to see, because obviously
you want to see it week in and week out.
They're not close to getting all-star cards this year. Last year, obviously, they would have with their forwards. So, yeah, they need a few more games like this before they're back in that contention and before coaches actually want to start picking them on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and not to nitpick here, but I think Rozee actually had a bit of a quieter second half.
The whole Port team sort of pulled
a silly amount of fantasy points at halftime. So, yeah, mate, great performance from him.
Yeah, it was good. Throw to you and your boy. So we spoke about who was the pod when Marshall was up against Grundy. Who do you play? And you went, I'm going in with my all-star Timmy English. And he had such a good matchup. And even though the rest of the team got belted, he was good. He was good.
He was fantastic. I must say, again, I don't want to nitpick because he played so well. But at the start of the game, I was actually worried.
Yeah.
The reason I was worried, not much involvement. Didn't have too many fantasy points. Wasn't dominating the way I thought. But he went in at quarter time and he came out with something in a fire within him lit. He knew that he needed to step up. English gang, we haven't been able to represent in a while. We finally were. And, mate, he was the next 3 quarters, just as you mentioned, dominant. Kicked 2 goals throughout. He was fantastic. He was taking good contested grabs. He was working like just the hit outs. He didn't win as many hit outs as I thought, only 24.
Yeah, that's insane, right? So he's top scored for his team here and almost was up there with some massive scores. Yet Jordan Sweet, his ex teammate at the Dogs, had 42 hitouts, beat him to his 24. So he was beating him in the air. He could have had think about that. Like if that goes the other way and he has the 40 and Jordan has the 20, then we're sitting here talking about a Tim English 170 bomb.
Yeah, which is tough, man, for sure. That's the one aspect of the game where I thought he would dominate a little bit more and didn't. But because he was so good around the ground, 8 marks, 5 tackles, 4 free fours as well with 2 goals. It definitely more than made up for that lack of fantasy point production in the hit out category, which is sort of what you want from a rucks. A bit strange that he wasn't all there, but at least he was dominating in all those other aspects. So yeah, mate, I was stoked. This is the second time I've played my All-Star Team English this season. And my goodness, I picked a fantastic round to do it. I was super happy with the result. And the 152 turned into about 205.
Yeah, I mean, you'll take that.
So, yeah, it helped pick up the slack for a couple of other players, that didn't perform as well, which is always good to sort of round off that average. So,
yeah, definitely. No, that's good.
So more talking points. Bailey Dale. That's a player that's featured a lot in our squads, Cal. What do you think about his game?
He just went missing. Good old Bailey Dale. 90 points. Pretty sort of nothing game, right?
Yeah.
Definitely not the matchup, right? Port were pressing. They weren't letting the ball go around the back. So yeah, pretty sort of like, it didn't ruin your round. Do you have comments on him? Because I got a few other ones I was going to throw at you.
No, it wasn't the round for it. I wasn't very confident with it. Like there are going to be rounds where Bailey Dale is going to be in the best 7 defenders for matchups, and I'm going to start him again for sure. Just wasn't this one. I wasn't liking the matchup, and look, it sort of showed. He's normally more around that 115, 120 range. So on a good day, so yeah, you take the 90, but look, you wouldn't be stoked with it. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, it could have been a lot worse, right? We said on Thursday it's not the game for halfback kickers in this game at all. So if you have a look at Houston's score of 74, it's another
back-to-back dud
weeks.
Yeah, 60, 74. It's a bit concerning.
He did have the sexiest kick I've ever seen at one time. That was just like, so, but for that, he should get an extra 30 points. But my other boy, Kane Farrell, only had 76 as well. So, yeah, not the game for halfback flankers. But if you're there on Thursday, we told you that. So, shout out to us on that one, Tom. I want to talk about some of these CBA numbers. I'll give you a couple of surprising ones. First of all, Butters was only in there 30% of the time.
Butters didn't play in the 4th quarter as well, by the way. Can we just get that out of the way? Like 160 and 3 is absurd.
So,
literally absurd.
Yeah, with a lot of those ones coming, in the first half. So that was still low. That was still below where I thought he would be.
50, yeah, wow. Okay.
And then the Ed Richards one. So I'd love to get what the Zach Butters number stat was at 3/4 time when he did get subbed off. But yeah, we should have even mentioned that off the top. He got subbed. He could have been on 200 points. Insane. And Ed Richards was in there 60% of the time. So Bont obviously, Bont wasn't in there. It was in there less than half. So I'm wondering if that was a little bit of a step up. But keep an eye on that because Ed Richards has been a sneaky pod option down back. So keep an eye on if that's something just because of the Bont or if he's going to get a bit more time in there and then potentially someone to look for down back.
It's a really good call. I got one more for you though before we move on.
Oh, is it about Jason Horne-Francis?
It's about Rory Lobb as a defender.
Yeah, I could talk about Jason. I don't want to talk about Rory Lobb, but yeah, go on, give it to me.
Really, really good work. I really think that that's a play that we're going to see Bevo go to more often, and this could be literally Himmelberg at the Giants situation in 2023. I think we're about to see a transition from him going as a forward to being a defender full time. He's played his best football in 2024 in that position. He took some fantastic contested grabs, and he did a really good job, all things considered, for someone who hasn't played defense, maybe ever, to step in there and to compete. Like, not that it showed on the scoreboard. It was a little bit late. I think they subbed him in around the fourth quarter, end of the third. But that is something I'm personally going to be keeping an eye on. It's not something you deploy now, but I think this is something to watch over the next week or two to see how this unfolds, because this could be a big pod forward option that could pay huge dividends playing in defense.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I actually didn't see it. I turned off the Port game. I didn't watch the third quarter. I turned on the North game. I thought it'd be a better one with the Suns finish. So
Okay.
yeah, if you're
cool.
telling me Lob's gone back and looked good in defense, I'll take your word for it. But yeah,
Take my word for it. Trust me.
No, I'd still be burning all my Rory Lob cards that I'd be getting. So yeah.
Okay.
Shout out Georgiades. There's
goals.
Because there's always those forwards that kick a bag and you can stream in. I don't think he's quite there yet. And I thought it was going a couple of years ago. I thought Marshall was going to be that guy, our Jesse Hogan. But no, Georgiades, sneaky good. And he's only back from an ACL. So we say ACLs are about an 18-month injury. So This is for next year. He's someone I'm keeping an eye on and making sure I've got a card of all rarities heading into next season for. So
love it, man. Let's move it on. I think we summarised Game 3 quite well. We're going to go into Game 4. This is going to be Hawthorn and Geelong. Now, I will start this one off, Cal, because I made a big call to say that you should start Tom Stewart this round. And I subbed him out. I've gone against my yeah, I know. Now, this is one of the big L's I took. I won't tell you who I subbed him in for yet. I think I'll leave that for a surprise because we haven't gotten there. But I subbed out Tom Stewart, a bronze, in my defense, and that hurt. And while we're on the topic of Tom Stewart, I have more to add to this. There was a reason why I wanted to start him. And he not only showed me why those reasons were valid, but he showed me more. 72% CBA attendance for this one. Tom Stewart is becoming a clearance specialist for Geelong. He is spending a good amount of time in that midfield. And what they're doing, and I thought this is really interesting to track, they're getting Mitch Duncan and Tommy Stewart to essentially swap. So after the centre bounce, Tom Stewart will come back into his normal position. He'll be back as the defender, and sometimes like that loose one to try to intercept and pick it off. And Mitch Duncan's coming into that midfield more to be that main distributor, and they were forcing it into his hands, which I thought was a really interesting dynamic that worked extremely well for Geelong throughout this one.
Yeah, I watched him and I completely forgot that you'd picked him too. I remember now you're saying it. It's coming back to me, our chat on Thursday. And we sort of said, I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about does he get the tag. So he did not. He did not. So he was awesome. But I don't know. I want to see a little bit of consistency with it. I want to know how much of this is Geelong were like, this guy is an All-Australian. And for us, he's been an incredible fantasy player. Do we kind of want to feed him when it's a little bit easier here? You know what I mean? Let's get our guy back in form. Yeah, I don't know. So for me, I want to see it a little bit. But yeah, shout out to you for getting the analysis spot on. But also shout out to you for swapping him out of your squad. So I'm assuming it could, but you've been a bit quiet about it, which makes me think that you've swapped him for someone who's gone even bigger. But we'll see.
Okay, let me diffuse that straight away. Definitely not. 142 is, or 141 there is like absolutely fantastic. And unfortunately, I did not sub him in for someone who went bigger. But Cal, let's move it over to a forward who is finally come into your squad. And he's come in at a very, very good time for you. Dylan Moore, 140. You would have been stoked with getting him into your forward line this round.
Definitely. You say he's coming at the perfect time. I lie. You lie. The perfect time would have been last week instead of Waterman's 40 that he put out in the same game. But you know what? I'll take this one because he was really good in a pretty ordinary game for the Hawks. And the fact that he can get 26 touches and kick goals and rack up 5+ tackles, I like it. I'm really liking Moore. The question is, what's he going to be next year? Is he going to be a midfielder? Are we going to lose Moore? Is Moore going to be a player that you'd even think about if he's a midfielder? But hey,
we'll see. I think he's spending enough time in the forward that he should still have the dual position tag, and
Yeah.
he should be able to maintain his forward status. But it's definitely, it seems like he's spending more time. I do totally get that. So that could be something to watch for the tail end of the year.
Yeah, because as you remember, if anyone is new to the positions, if a player is listed by Champion Data as dual position, and they're a forward, a mid and something else, we give them the other status. I butchered that. But if they're a mid and something else, they become the something else. So that's why last year we had Rosie and Butters up forward, but they lost that forward status, so they thrown straight back into the mids for us this year. But anyone else you want to talk about in this game? There weren't many fantasy options that I loved, unless you want to
talk about the Geelong pairing of forwards, and
I'll take that.
It was a tale of two. No, not unfortunately. I don't think Carl Amon really ticks the
GameDay Squad box. No, not yet.
Jeremy Cameron, Inkata Messi, or Brian Myers. So Jeremy Cameron, back to his best and at a good time for Geelong. You know, no Tomahawk anymore, so they've lost one of their big key forwards. But Jezza was doing a little bit of everything. 19 disposals, 4 goals, 4. Could have been a lot more. 122 fantasy points. This is definitely something to watch moving forward. I do think Hawthorn really struggled in their defense, not having Sicily there, just orchestrating everything and making sure everyone was being accountable. And Jezza took advantage of that massively. He was just punishing them again and again, and he was moving the ball extremely quick. We know how talented and skillful of a player he was, and he was super damaging in front of the sticks for this one. So he looked fantastic, but Myers only to 79.
Let's talk on Jezza, and then we'll get to Myers, because I'm looking at Jezza's score here. That's his third highest for the year. And the thing with these key forwards, right, you kind of want to know that if they have this big game, you're Jesse Hogan, that they will go up and go huge and get you 160, 170. Now, if Cameron kicks a little bit straighter, potentially we're talking about it like that. But even then, he's not talking 160, 170.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm still looking at him yet and going, he's not a Harry Kai and does like the base where Harry's, he take him as the key forward that pushes up, gets the marks, is in the play, and he doesn't always need to kick the goals. But for me, Jezza just isn't giving me that upside that I'd ever feel comfortable streaming him in, because his downside is 70s. So yeah, that's obviously, this time, the start of last year, we were talking about him as the best player in the competition. So can he get back there? I don't know. But yeah, they're my 2 cents on Jezza.
Fair enough. But I will say he's definitely streaming in the right direction. There's no doubt about that. He's looking better. And hopefully, maybe he could be an option and he can assert some more confidence in us moving forward if we can see this on a more consistent basis. I think the 2 key factors are goal kicking and disposal count, and especially with kicks. And if he can keep those 2 numbers up, we can see him potentially stream through a lot more squads for the round. But someone who's doing sort of the opposite, potentially coming out of a lot more squads as the season goes along, is Brian Myers. 15 disposals, only a goal. We were talking about him as such a good forward option before, and it was someone that I was looking to each round to just, plug in to my best 7. But now I didn't start him this week. I know you didn't, but I'm just losing even more confidence and faith that Myers will ever get back to some good form to be able to start.
Yeah, 2 scores over 100 since round 10, which isn't too far long ago, but enough to be dropped until we start to see that early season form. But even then, I'm kind of looking at his scores and his averages. I know he had a few games here and there, but yeah, I think the Brian Myers run is over. So
the dream run,
his World Cup winning run is over.
Damn, it truly is. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. I just thought he was going to be used more. Like, he was pushing up the ground higher in the season. He was getting used a lot. Good marks, some kicks. But yeah, mate, it's just, I think it's done for sure. He's not someone I'm going to be looking at. Will I keep an eye on him? Of course, because I do feel like there is still some sort of a role there later on. And if he can get back into form. But as of right now, he's definitely not part of my best 7 forwards, and he won't be for the foreseeable future, that's for sure.
Can I throw something on you there? He's 25. Good buy low.
Could be a good buy low for sure, but I wouldn't be, throwing the house at it. Let's say I wouldn't be too confident in the buy low. But is there an opportunity?
I can tell you right away, I'm not throwing the house at anything to do with Grind Myers, regardless of the rarity of cards. But yeah, just to let you know. But yeah, I was just trying to bring up his diamond. So where would you say his diamond is? Have a guess. His cheapest diamond on the market right now.
I'd say he's like $40, $50.
$60.
Okay, bit unders.
Yeah,
should have given him more credit.
$60. Hey, so no, this is good. Just a couple more down weeks, and then when he's into that 40 mark for you, potentially could be a good play to go and snap it up for potentially next season, because I reckon he'll still be a forward as well. And I tell you what, forwards are going to be thin again next year. So
that is for sure.
Let's go game 5. What do we got?
Let's go game 5. We have I was stoked. First of all, I want to just put this out there. I said this would be a great game. You said, why do you think that Carlton will probably belt them? You didn't think the Giants had it in them. I told you the Giants they're lurking. Are they in good form for the year? Definitely not. But on paper, I know on paper's not always how things go in sports. They're really good. They're a good team. They're solid, and they proved it in this one. They had a very tight win. They were out by a little bit. They were down early, got up,
down huge, and then
they started sort of crawling their way back in, Carlton, but not enough to get through there. 116, 104, and you can see sort of why at the top of this list here. Look at the main fantasy contributors in this one. We're looking at all Giants players. They stepped up big time in this one, but I don't know how many people in that top 5 would have been rolling with any of those cards.
No, I don't know. This is the week that you sit down and go, you know what, I'm going to stream Jesse Hogan when he's got Jacob Wiedering on him. So, but we obviously didn't know that.
In my opinion, it screams the opposite. It's like, do not start Jesse Hogan.
Well, obviously, Wiedering went down injured. And then from there, the game flipped, right? So Hogan was able to go for 5 goals, and the game sort of, flipped massively. But yeah, there's no one really on that list. I tell you what, Kieran Briggs, we talk about those ruck pod options. Maybe someone would have looked at him. I didn't love it. I thought these guys would take points off themselves. But again, if you took Kieran Briggs, or even if you took De Koning as your second ruck, you'd be pretty happy with that. You'd take 130. I tell you what, I would have taken 130 for Gorn today. Damn. But we'll get to him. But yeah, like you said, the big name that's not on there is Sammy Walsh. Do you want to talk about him? Because you played a silver. I thought it hurt playing a bronze. You played a silver.
Yes. Look, I don't think anyone expected what we saw from this game in terms of output for Sammy Walsh. He was a little bit off. He was just out of it. I don't even know what else to say. It was very disappointing, firstly. Like, he got outscored by, like, Mackay. Newman outscored him, and we thought Newman had a bad matchup in this one. Like, you're looking at some of the numbers, and it just doesn't make sense almost. Like, how did this happen? Walsh has been probably, I don't know if we can say the most, but one of the most in-form midfielders in all of fantasy over the past couple of rounds. So to see him go 77 fantasy points, I didn't even think it was possible a couple of weeks ago for him to score that low. So I think it's a back to reality moment. Am I concerned though? No. The Giants just clearly came out with the want and just beat them. They beat them in the park. They were first to the footy more often throughout the game, and they paid the price for it. And Walsh couldn't do all the amazing things that he would normally do because, they just weren't getting their hands on the footy as much.
Yeah, no, I wasn't watching, but I've heard a couple of things. I'll have to go back and check, but Bedford put the clamps on him. I want to see if that was legit and it was just a tag. So, but the other player that didn't play so well that we both played, I say didn't play so well. 123 for Lockie Whitfield.
That's great for a defender. What are you talking about? I'm taking that all day.
Hey, when you watch him go 170 the week before, 123 just seems a bit,
Fair enough, but it's 190 by the way.
190, even better. Right? What's that? What's that, like a 40% drop? And you're saying, fair.
It's a big drop. I do get that. But 120 3. We're taking that all day, every day. No complaints there. Whitfield did what we thought he was going to do. Came out, distributor, kick-ins. Thank you very much. We love you, Whitfield. And going to continue to stream him through my squad. That is for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. You were saying before about the difference in points, how much the Giants had. Second biggest differential for the round. Only the Eagles to the Demons this afternoon was worse. So
that was a tough watch at times.
Yeah. Can I touch on Harry Mackay? Because I got last week I got the half the game right. And then this week I've got half of his game right. He kicked 5 goals. And if you told me Harry Mackay kicks 5 goals, I'd be like,
what would you think the score would be? 140. So to see 86 would have been an absolute shock to you.
Yeah, it was. He just was doing nothing but kick goals, which, fair enough.
Thank you, but come on.
Yeah. So with no Taylor, he definitely was kicking the goals, but he wasn't getting out of the ground like I thought. And I tell you what, he had no help from Kerno, who was just an absolute puddle the whole game. So, yeah. But that's pretty much all I want to talk about there, unless you want to talk to me about Tom Green and 124 and putting him back on watch.
I wouldn't say. Look, Tom Green's always on watch because we're a dynasty platform, and player of Tom Green's caliber, and we've seen him go crazy before. You should definitely be watching. I do think there's better times ahead, but as of right now, he's just not even a consideration for my midfield.
Yeah,
there's so many other people I'd rather stream through.
Tom Green, he's got 1 diamond on the market. Have a guess at the price.
That's still be like 200, surely 300.
250. There you go. Right in the middle. So, he's definitely still highly thought of in the community. So, you're not getting close to him.
Yes, that is for sure, mate. Let's flick it over. Now, this is where I made one of my best decisions of the round. So I might start it there, and we'll talk about the players straight after. I subbed out Caleb Sarong. Now, I had started having a look at his numbers, and I thought, let me take you through my thought process so you can understand this, because I think there was very valid reason. And if you looked into it a little bit more, maybe you might have made the same decision. I know the numbers, and you're looking at the matchup, and it screamed Caleb Sarong could go bonkers.
Screamed is a perfect use of word there, because this matchup was screaming. Play all the Freo players you could.
It did. It definitely did. That's for sure. Well, look, it wasn't the correct Freo midfielders to start. Let's start there. But 87, 112, 111, 93. That's his 4-round average for his performances so far. Now, that sounds more like a lower end of a defender, not a midfielder, not the Caleb Sarong that we saw at the start of the season, who was dropping 130s, 140s for fun at that point. So I looked at his form, and I think, and this is very similar to 2023. Tell me, this is like deja vu for me, Cal. Caleb Sarong came out early that season for Freo, absolutely blitzed it. Everyone started talking about how is Caleb Sarong the best player at Fremantle. Brayshaw took his sweet time, but he started to get it rolling. And by the end of the season, Brayshaw was undeniably back into his best form and back into people's squads in GameDay Squad. Tell me, Cal, is this deja vu? Are we seeing this same thing unfold again? Because Brayshaw is finally starting to get it going. We've got back-to-back games now. Is it time to let go of Caleb Sarong from our squads and start looking at Andy B, Hef's boy again?
Yeah, you've nailed that, because I'd completely forgotten that the second half of last year was Andy Brayshaw turning it on. And I'm pretty sure I played him until this point last year. It was like, nah, all right.
And then we both sort of transitioned. And we're like, let's go.
And then we couldn't quit. We couldn't jump back into Brayshaw. He was huge. And you're right. I was tossing up between the two as well. I went Sarong in my classic, but I played Brayshaw in every single. I played him in the classic. I played him in my challenger, in my starter, and in my champion. So I hedged it by putting him there. So I got all the Andy Brayshaws there. But this is the one I wanted. And they both had the same opportunities, same CBAs, in the same spots, but this way just fell Andy B. So I don't know if I'm going to sit here and go and, hey, I'm now completely on the Andy B side, but It's not what it was. You're right. Before it was, if you're playing a Freo midfielder, it's the wrong one. And then do you play Andy as a second? But yeah, now it's going to be the coin flip, and which I like, because I like when Andy B is up and about, because he's such a good player to watch. So Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough as well. Let's talk about
Yeah, can I touch on a
Nank.
few? Well, before we get into him, can I touch on this game because this one's really
Go
important
for
to
it.
me because, like I said, this was just
Look at the salary
screaming.
cap spend, first of all. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Go. Take the floor, mate.
yeah, it was a pretty sort of up and down game. I was telling you, this is where you spend your matchup in the defense. Now I'm going to give you the numbers here. You can see them there in front of you. Young 125, Ryan 122, Clark 115. If you
Mhm.
played all three like you did, wouldn't have killed you. None of them went ballistic like we thought they did, but none of them probably went the score that you would have been happy throwing like I did the platinum on. You're not stoked with a Ryan 122 platinum. I've missed out there. It's not like my merit in the first game. And the other thing too that stings is that Young we were thinking about putting in, but he had such a bad round last week. I don't know how many coaches would have actually trusted him to bounce back, even with that tasty matchup. But you had the faith. You played the silver. Must have been nerve wracking after out last week. What did he score? 40? 50?
Yeah, he had a shocker last week, but although they won, it's the Swans, like the midfield, and just I knew this was going to be more free flowing, and this type of game was really going to suit Hayden Young
Is
in
your
that
midfield good or
midfield.
something?
Yeah, well, we're actually
Used
8
to
points
be?
clear of second, so I think we're pretty good.
All right. Yeah,
That's second, by the way. That's not anyone else. Number 2.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Don't you worry.
So yeah, I thought Hayden Young was going to have a great game, and the numbers said that, and also just I don't think you look into like form. Definitely has to be a consideration, but Hayden Young's had a pretty good year all around, so I was pretty confident in playing the 3.
62 CBAs, 62% CBAs for him. So that's a 15% down on Andy and Sarong, but a little bit more than he had been, which I like. Nat 5 still in there getting 62 as well. So yeah, I wonder.
He's still kicking it, man. He's still like not fantasy relevant, but we just Nat 5's Nat 5.
Hey, fantasy relevant last week purely because he tagged Heaney out of the game. So but not in your squad type of relevant. But yeah, I just wanted to call that out because there are definitely a few people there. Nank was the pod ruckman. He was the ruckman this week.
He was the one to have,
which is absolutely insane when they started with Sean Darcy and then he went down injured. Yet they still could bring in Luke Jackson, and he still goes ballistic.
dominated.
So
he was dominated by Jackson. Actually, didn't have a bad game as well. By the way, he would have been a pretty cool option to have.
But in the ruck, they were just getting absolutely beasted by this man who was, and Nank's just a tackle machine. He's an angry man. I know you do not like him. Who did he take out from your Swans a couple of years ago? Was it last year?
Lloyd.
That's right. He took out your boy Lloyd, and yeah, you've hated him ever since. But man, he's an angry. He plays angry, and I love a ruckman that plays angry. Gets some good tackles. So yeah, but I don't know. Do you know anyone that was playing Nank?
No, it'd be pretty audacious decision considering other matchups like Tim English, Marshall, Gorn, Cherry, without Wits playing, to go, you know what? Let's get Nank against the two-headed monster of Darcy and Luke Jackson. I don't know how many people would have gone down that path, but if you did, I'm going to say, hats off to you. You saw something I didn't.
Yeah, hit us up next time because I don't know what you're saying. Let's talk about a couple of boys that I know you love. So obviously you played Taranto, which is the risk, and then I'll start with him, and then we can talk about your boy Bolton. I know you love.
Do love Bolton. Let's start off with Timmy T. He's just having a really solid year. Since he's been back, at least from the injury, 124, 146, 112, 123. Look, Richmond, it's not very good if you're a Richmond fan watching them play this year, but the one shining light is knowing that you still have Tim Taranto.
Well, they haven't for the next 7 years, 6 years.
Yeah. So, look, at least you've got an absolute stud of a player in Timmy T. He's just doing all the heavy lifting. And I think one thing, I know you said I love Shai Bolton, and look, his performance speaks a different story to what I saw in the field. He played as pretty much a full-time forward, and I don't love that.
Right.
I was so high on Bolton because I thought, there's a midfield role for him in this team. He's going to get some more touches, more kicks, more disposals. Fortunately for him this round, 4 goals, 3. So he could have had an absolutely monster performance. Didn't quite, but 14 kicks, most of those all being inside the forward 50, which was very surprising. So, yeah, I think that midfield role that we saw from him earlier this year is now gone. We're going to see him as a full-time forward, and I don't know how fantasy effective we're going to see Shai Bolton playing that role. But Timmy T, on the other hand, that's not someone you need to worry about coming out of the midfield. He's just set and forget midfielder for Richmond. He's going to give you a really solid score. I feel like with him, he's just not one of those players that can boom like Andy Brayshaw, getting those 170s. But he's not a player that we're going to see go dip too low, hopefully. So, yeah, he's got a pretty good floor for fantasy, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair. I was just pulling up the Bolton numbers here. So his CBA is about 27%. Compare that to the last couple of rounds. He was 62, 58, 50. So you're right. He did actually have a lot less this time. But like you said, he was making it count with goals up forward.
Yep.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, that really does make it a bit more of a risk, like you were saying. But
it's concerning. It is concerning because you want forwards to play midfield minutes. You want forwards to have more opportunity to get their hands on the ball, and especially at a team like Richmond. Not to beat down on Richmond here, but there's been passages of this season where it's been pretty tough to get into their forward line and to have good, effective inside forward 50s where forwards can score. So when you put all these combination of factors together and Bolton playing full time in there, it is very concerning. The one bright light is Bolton is a good one-on-one player. So he is going to win some battles throughout a game. But is it going to be enough to warrant him being in your team or your squads? I don't think so.
No, definitely not liking those trends and stuff I'm seeing with him. So, but hey, if he starts kicking the goals, maybe we can start chatting about him. Last player, do you want to talk about your boy Dan Rioli?
Dan Rioli legacy game. I messaged you.
You got me for a second too, because I was like, oh no, is he going ballistic?
26 disposals just didn't translate to
any sort of effective production.
Yeah.
Man loves a handball, and that is not what we love.
Yeah, and like Sarong, I think the reason why we saw Sarong score so little, 27 disposals, but pretty much nothing of anything else. 1 mark, 2 tackles, if I'm seeing that. Dan Rioli, very similar. 1 mark, 1 tackle, the disposals. You need to be doing more around the ground to score. It's just that little buffer of points.
What's the opposite of filling up the box score? Dan Rioli. I know. But yeah, figure that out. Figure out what they call that in basketball.
Well,
not Mr.
beat down on Dan Rioli. Come on, bro. Don't do that to him.
Yeah, all right. Let's beat down on me. Do you want to go to Max Gorn week?
Let's talk about one more player. Liam Baker, another forward option for Richmond. I think a lot of people have been looking towards him. Would you have played him this round? Potentially not, but someone to keep an eye on. But yeah, had a pretty disappointing game if you did start him this round. Very similar to the players we just mentioned. Not a lot of other things other than disposals, which really, really impacted his effect on the game and, just his score in general. So he will be someone to watch, and you want to probably stream through your squads at some point this season. But yeah, if you started him this week, it wasn't the round for it.
I'll be honest, I heard you say Liam Baker and I flicked on to the next game because no, he's not going to be in my squad at any point in time. And 26, I don't think he's ever going to be a dynasty player that I want a part of. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Liam Baker.
Fair enough. Gosh, I started him some good rounds this year. He had 136, 122. Maybe that's why I'm on top of you.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway,
but now you don't know that you are. You think you are.
Max Gorn week, baby.
I could have gone ballistic.
Let's roll into it.
Max Gorn, yeah, let's get into it. Not good when your player goes off injured and you claim that he's going to be the highest scoring player of the round. Not good when he is not very good twice in a row after you saying he was going to be the highest scoring player of the round. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of an asterisk talking about him, right? But he started off okay. I would have liked him to get in more on some of the goals. I know he kicked 1, but I would have liked him to get it part of that early party. But yeah, not for me this week. Just not it.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Injury. So look, we can't be too critical and overanalyze this. He was playing when he played. He looked fantastic. The matchup screamed again that he was going to play really well, and he was playing really well. But there was one particular incident inside the centre bounce where there was a free kick called, but he sort of went to go play on, and he kicked the ball, and someone went to like smother it, but he's like literally kicked their body into their shin, I think. And he had a bit of like a shin on shin or a knee, and that's exactly the moment I saw he started limping, and you'd behold a couple minutes later, like sort of had to exit the game. It was clearly
I think they said foot. They were saying officially, but yeah,
so of course, sorry, it could have been the foot also impacting on the body. I couldn't see it exactly.
Yeah.
It was a bit quick in the moment, but definitely didn't look great.
What it does do is it does put a question mark on him because they got the turnaround now till Saturday, so he's got a 6-day break this week. So yeah, question marks whether he is going to be a lock for everyone, because I think heading into this round, even if you thought it was going to be Max Gawn week, I think if you didn't think that, I still think you would have played him because he just has been the form ruckman.
Yep.
But yes, there's a watch. They play Essendon next Saturday night, so that's his turnaround.
It'll be tough for him. We'll see. Yeah, definitely a big talking point throughout the week. Will Max Gawn be able to suit up and play, and will we be able to play him in our squads? And sort of what's the confidence with that? If he's feeling a bit 50-50, we've been pretty critical on players like Bont when they're not feeling good coming into a matchup to potentially sit them on the sideline for the round. So will we sort of adopt that as a fantasy community the same way for someone like Gawn, or is he too good to even think about that for? That's what I'm sort of thinking.
If I played Rosie with a torn hamstring, I can play Gawn with a sore foot.
You didn't play Rosie with a torn hammy. Ken did.
We both did, remember? We both did. The showdown.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about someone else.
Let's talk about Rivers.
Yes, let's talk about Rivers.
I was a week too early, unfortunately, with my analysis from the round before. I identified that when Petrarca came out, there was some midfield minutes to go around, and that someone was going to grab onto this role and get a bulk of them. He's not getting all of it. He's not sitting in the midfield full time, but what he is doing is he's getting a high majority of these CBA attendances that we would see track get.
Have you seen the numbers from today?
Not for today's game.
He was the most attended Melbourne Demons player in today's CBA.
Wow.
83%. Tim Kelly, the poor man, was thrown in there for 90% of them for the West Coast, but can only score 97 points. It's crazy when your CBA percentage is close to your fantasy score. It's not a good sign.
Yep.
Trent Rivers, though, 83%. So that's more than Clayton Oliver. That's more than Viney. So, yeah, he very much is the man at the moment. So you got it right. I think the big question with him is, do you play him next week?
So this is my thought process with Rivers moving forward now. Like, we understand now the role he's playing. When we're looking at matchup data and analysis, where he needs to look at the midfield matchups for him. Mm-hmm. I know he's a defender, but that's irrelevant because his role is not a defender at the moment. He's a full-time mid. So when we're looking at the Demons and we're moving forward and we're like, okay, should we start him for a round? We need to be looking at the midfield matchups, the points for, the points against for these games that he's going to be participating in. And that's sort of how I'm going to be gauging what rounds I want to stream Rivers through my squad and what rounds he's going to sit on the pine for me and potentially not be part of my best 7. So he's definitely going to feature again for me. This game is really good confirmation that it's there. The role's there, and he's going to be playing some really good footy moving forward.
Well, I'm just bringing up the matchups for Essendon. I know this is a review, but Essendon's pretty middle of the road, so pretty average. So, yeah, I guess it's that balances itself out, and it's like, right, do you think Rivers is going to be this again, or? But you know what it has done, because I didn't fully believe you when we were talking about Rivers a couple of weeks ago in the preview show. But now's the week to go out and get a Rivers card, because you might not get another chance if he goes big again. So you can still pick up Rivers cards pretty cheaply here. I'm looking, Tom. I can put gold for $2 for a gold is the cheapest. And
I'll tell you what, though.
Geez, silver $2 as well. So
can I be honest with you? I don't know if I'd be doing it as quickly as maybe you're indicating. Let's go through the next couple of weeks for Melbourne. Essendon, Crows. Sorry, not Crows. Essendon, Freo, Giants.
Freo, a sneaky.
Bulldogs.
Hold up. So Freo, that's an above matchup. So they actually sneaky give up a sneaky amount of points. Who are the other ones?
Freo.
So the
Port
Bulldogs.
Power.
Port, they're hard to score against. And then the Dogs, they're kind of middle of the road as well. So a lot of middle of the roads. There's no easy games. There's no West Coast coming up again, which I want to just call out. I said at the start I wanted to have a chat about the matchups. You know what? No, you know what? I'm going to keep that for a segment after. I'm going to keep that for
Keep it.
Yeah, put it.
Hang on to it. Let's quickly talk about some other players. We're at Game 7. We've got a couple more to go here, Cal. Duggan, a little bit disappointing. The numbers would have indicated that he'd probably be more around that 120 mark for this one, maybe even pushing 130, getting a lot of kicks. Just wasn't like that. 20 disposals, 6 marks, only 88 fantasy points. So, look, very disappointing. I think a lot of people would have had Duggan, so I do feel okay about it because it's like I feel like there's a good majority of coaches who would have wanted to trust Duggan this round.
This whole West Coast squad was awful. If you actually look, their highest scoring player was Tim Kelly at 97.
With 97. So, yeah, exactly.
And so there's 2 there on the list. They did, across the board, they just did not find the footy. And, I was saying before, they easily, it's not just a little bit, they easily scored the least amount of fantasy points as a squad this round. So yeah, not looking good to play someone like Duggan. Yo, again, he's on the board there at 95, but you wouldn't take that. Harley Reid, I don't know why you'd be playing him just yet, but no good. And Waterman kicked his 2 goals. That man tries. That man, trade him. Free my boy Waterman from what is going on over there at West Coast. But yeah, no, I think that's the last of Waterman you're going to be seeing in my squad for some time now.
You really can't get that pick right, though, in all honesty. Every week you play him, he does
because I love him as a player. Just the team around him, it just don't make his life easy. And it'd be different if you're down back and you can just, or you're a midfielder and you win your own footy. But no, Paul Waterman needs some help to get the ball in his hands, and he's got none of that at the moment. So
yes, very, very true, mate. But I think we've wrapped this one up quite well. I can't imagine there were too many other players people would have been looking at from this one. You happy to move it on?
Oh, yeah. Are you?
Yeah, it's okay. 8 points clear. That's all I'm going to say. It feels good on the top. When you're at the top, you need to face some adversity, and I'd rather face it now than face it later in the season. But the thing is, I guess the big headline, unfantasy related, is that Logan McDonald does not have the clutch gene.
No.
If there is a gene, he does not have it. Okay. You got the Kobe Bryant type players in the world. You got the LeBron Jameses. You got the Dustin Martins who step up in big moments. They make plays. McDonald, not that guy, pal. He had a good game. Just when it comes down to the moment of winning it, he just seems that he just can't do it.
Do you want an unpopular opinion?
Go on.
Kobe's not that clutch. He's had a few good moments. Overrated when it comes to the clutch. Happily, we can take that offline, but I know I'm going to upset a horde of people.
That's a horrible take. That is so bad.
Look at the numbers. He's not that guy. He's had a couple of good moments. But you're right. On a scale of Logan to McDonald to Dustin Martin, how clutch are you? Is going to be the new question, but he's not clutch. Let's talk fantasy. Let's start with a man who is at the bottom of that list, but was a big part of your squad this week in Errol Gordon.
Yes. Look, fantastic 3 quarters of footy. Let's say that. First 3 quarters, he was on about 110 after the 3rd quarter. So really didn't do anything in the 4th. I know that they were sending, I can't remember who it was, but they were sending a man to Goulden because he was getting it going and they didn't want him to dominate. And although they sent one in the 3rd, he still found a way to contribute. But in the 4th, it got really tough for him and he just couldn't get his hands on the footy. So I think that's a big factor of the result. But also it was really disappointing for people who had Goulden because it just looked like he was going to explode. He was the highest scoring fantasy player, I think, at 3/4 time or just about if he wasn't. So the fact that he went all the way from there to down to 10th for the game was a massive, massive shock. He literally had 1 disposal, 1 kick for the quarter. Yeah, so 4 points he added on in the last compared to so many other players who went crazy. So that was just the most disappointing 4th quarter as someone who has an all-star. possible. I know you rolled with his bronze, so you wouldn't have been happy either with the bronze performance out of the mids with 110. But definitely stings that little bit more knowing I got the 1.35 multiplier and I didn't really get much out of it this week.
Yeah, I didn't actually notice that's how his score were going. I wasn't keeping in track of these ones live. I only sort of saw them at the end, but it does make sense. But yeah, it's Goulden. We talk about him being, a lock for 20 kicks every week. I don't know what he got in the end. We got 28 touches. What, did he just fall short of that for maybe the second time, did he? Do you have the numbers? Goulden, 18 kicks. So what's that? No, the second or third
18
time.
kicks.
Yeah, he's gone below that. So if that's his floor, you're playing him every single week. So yeah, sucks for you this week, but not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe do you want to talk about Rowan Marshall, 127? Because he had a big matchup with Brodie Grundy.
Yep. Now, I'm going to say the one thing that Rowan Marshall has done, I think Brodie Grundy did a great job on Rowan Marshall as a whole, but something that Rowan Marshall has added to his game, which is helping his floor of points, is goal kicking.
Mate, he's going forward. He looks
Rowan Marshall kicked goals last year.
Yeah. This is good. I really like this.
It's fantastic because what essentially you're taking a game that would probably be more like 110 fantasy points without the 2 goals to 127, which, look, for this round isn't the best for a ruck, but you're taking 127 from Marshall. So the fact that he's pushing so far forward and he's so effective in front of goals now is such a huge addition to what was already such a fantastic fantasy player. I know it's hard to say as the leader of English Gang, by the way. I don't like to really give flowers to other rucks, but I have to when it's warranted, and it definitely is warranted for Marshall this season.
He is obviously the only contender up against English last year with all the chaos that happened. But yeah, he looks really good. I really like it. Obviously, if you go full forward as a ruck, your ruckman opponent follows you, and Grundy probably hasn't had too much experience in his life playing as a fullback. And yeah, I do love it. But like you said, they split the stuff in the middle pretty evenly. Grundy wasn't terrible himself, but this is why I don't normally like playing someone who's going up against, say, Brodie Grundy quality, where you're just sort of capping that upside. But yeah, no, I'm pretty comfortable in slotting Marshall back into my squad next week. If Gawn is not there, then I think he's going to be an absolute lock because he's been the number 2 man all year.
Fair call.
The other man beside him, who we both played, beside him, I say in the points, 127 Heaney. Good score, standard Heaney score. Big question. Is he going to be suspended and lose the Brownlow? Is he even going to be in our squads next week?
Look, man, I saw the incident. It doesn't look great, but also it is a little soft, and it definitely seemed unintentional. Like, I don't know your point of view, but it looked like he was going to press back on him, and he just did it with force. And because he was already falling and slipping, it's just clocked him straight in the face. So he's not standing upright in that moment. I think it's a bit tough. And like with the tribunal this season, I have no idea how this is going to go. They're either going to look at this as an accident and let it go, or he's going to be out for 6 weeks. I have no idea.
I think the official ruling is like, even the high fend, exactly. Like the rule is what it is, but forget the rule. That shouldn't be a suspension. I don't think he meant to hurt him. So fingers crossed, not just for our fantasy squad, but I would love to see Heaney win a Brownlow. We've met him once before, Tom. He was lovely to us. So there you go, Heaney. Go on, win your Brownlow.
He's a fantastic guy and went forward this round, kicked 2 goals, and that, like Rowan Marshall, did a really good job for his score. He would have been sitting around that 110 mark, which you take as a forward, but there's 2 extra goals on top. The kicks, the marks that come with them, it's just such a boost in points, and it's so needed for, when things are going a bit tough. So it was really good to see him play well. But other than that, a bit disappointing from the Swans all around. So if you had a Grundy in there, wouldn't have been happy. Chad Warner, Giga Chad, played a pod in him. 104, wouldn't have been happy either.
Well, yeah, a few things before we get on to what else I want to talk about. Taylor Adams, I know we sort of flirted with is he someone that you can play? I like his position. Not when he's the sub.
Not when he's the sub. And as you can see, I fortunately subbed him out. So
yeah, after that was announced. So yeah, that was a bit of a shock. We didn't get to chat about that on Thursday night, obviously. I played, we'll keep with the Swans and then we'll touch on the Saints, guys. I played Blakey.
That would have hurt because the numbers. I know you were doing your analysis before the game. You thought it could be a lizard game. The lizard could be set free and should be flying around the pitch.
It should have been, but instead it was a McInerney and Florent and McCartan. The other defenders had a pretty good score there. Even Rampy 88. When was the last time Rampy had 88 fantasy points? Like, come on. And then I'm looking down the other ones. Matty Roberts, 42 before he got subbed off. Lloyd, not so good. So all the defenders that you thought, and I thought were going to score well, headlined by Blakey, didn't work out that way. So yeah, that's stunning. And I think, I don't know, I haven't gone through all line by line, but I think that might be one of my lowest, if not lowest, scores for the round. So yeah, that definitely stings.
Yep. Let's talk about the Saints side of things. We had a particular player each, Jack Sinclair. Now, I just want to make something clear because
you
on the live,
got it wrong.
On the live, first of all, I got it wrong, but I said this would be a Wanganeen Miller week. I panicked before the game. I made a sub, and I had my Wanganeen Miller card in my starter competition, bronze.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to risk the fact of not getting the sub in. So I just was like, I have a Sinclair spare. I'm putting him in. It doesn't matter. So I panicked, put Sinclair in, wanting to have Miller. Fortunately, in this case, it was only the difference of 6 fantasy points. So although I got it wrong and continue my off trend, which I find hilarious, at least it didn't cost me too much.
I was pissed myself because they were really close the whole game. So yeah, awesome to sort of see that Miller once again has proven you're wrong there. But yeah, we played Sinclair. I think you'd take 100 and 118.
100%. Yeah, I'm taking that.
Maybe, yeah, considering some of the scores. So yeah,
but
it's not good.
This is the player. In theory, not exactly, but this is the player that I took out for Tom Stewart, by the way. Like, it ended up being that.
Who'd you take out? Miller. Yeah.
Well, like Sinclair ended up starting in the spot.
Oh, sorry. Gotcha.
But he's sitting in the spot that Tom Stewart was sitting in at the start of the preview show. So that does sting a little bit because I know at least I didn't get too wrong between the two, but technically if I kept Stewart in, I've actually lost 25 fantasy points.
Was it 25? Yeah, right.
145. I think he had something around there. So,
that stings. That stings. I just want to shout out Jack Steele finally had an appearance because remember I told you I bought him on Thursday night. I told you I swapped my bronze Joey Danaher for a platinum Jack Steele and was like, you beauty, upgrade. Then realized I didn't have a Joey Danaher bronze duplicate that I could actually roll out this week if I wanted to. And then it had us thinking, geez, did I actually make the right trade? Is a bronze Danaher a better asset to have than a Jack Steele platinum? Well, you know what? Jack Steele had 100% CBAs and 123 points. So I'm not ready to say he's back, but definitely made me feel a little bit better than I did on Friday once I realized that maybe I'd lost that trade.
Yeah, well, mate, in the last preview and review show, you made a really big deal about a particular player and a milestone that they hit. I just want to let you know, Bradley Hill has also entered the triple-double club in this one.
Oh, Bradley Hill.
14 kicks, 10 handballs, 10 marks would constitute a triple-double for Hill, and he scored 114 fantasy points. Now, this is a player that we've both started at a point of this season, but I've looked away from because of recent form and, some other factors. But he was really, really good throughout this matchup, and I found really funny when I went through the stats. I was like, Cal's going to find this hilarious because Dunkley had the triple-double last week. And if you had to put any sort of
respect on that man's name, come on.
Any sort of like prediction for who would get the next triple-double, no one would have said Bradley Hill.
Surely someone else would have got it, like Callum Wilkie, right? No? 14 marks? Surely there was some other people.
Potentially.
But anyway, I'll give it to you. Bradley Hill. Flew under my radar. I didn't even think to have any notes on him because I always forget that he's a forward. I know, like you said, we played him earlier in the season. But yeah, let's keep an eye on that one. Can I give you a dynasty watch?
Hit me.
Mateus Philippou, who was an early round pick last year, was dropped this season, was back, just played 5 games in a row in the twos,
Yep.
Came back today and looked
Yep.
bloody awesome, didn't he? When the game was in the balance, that guy, cold-blooded, 141 GDS points, kicked goal, 26 touches, pretty solid in the 5-5-5-5 club. If we're continuing this stats theme, but yeah, I really like him. Obviously, a second-year player, not someone I've got a lot of him at the moment. What did you think of his game? Obviously, seeing him being the one tearing up your Swannies.
Yeah, he played really well. I can't lie. He's quick. He's good with the ball. I think it's a good shout for Dynasty Watch. Don't get me wrong. I would be concerned about consistency with him in the immediate, but definitely someone to keep an eye on moving forward. And like you're going to want to get a player card or two for our multi competitions that we have now, Cal. So in the future, you can potentially roll out a couple. So I think it's a really good shout.
Well, he's 19, doesn't turn 20 till December, so he's still very young. Have a guess of what his cheapest diamond is at the moment.
50.
75.
Wow. So
but
some
you
value.
can get
People are valuing him.
You can get a platinum today for $2, gold for $1.99, and a silver for $1. So if you're not playing in the champion and you don't have a Philippou card, there's definitely one there that won't break the bank. But yeah, those diamond ones are always probably the best measure of how someone's value actually is, because there's only 100 of them for every player, and it'll cost you 75 to get one of his at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. I'd be willing to, not that I've got the endless funds to buy on it, but I don't know. I'd be looking at that. He's not that sort of player for me yet, but just someone I wanted to flag because he had a really good game.
All right, Cal, mate. I reckon we move this along. We've still got to look at how we went for the round. We've got one more game. Let's get into game number 9. Now, this was either feast or famine, but if you were Lockie Neal and Dunkley, you were going to be feasting. Cal, you went with Dunkley in this one. This was super disappointing. I did not. I was having to watch him just go bonkers and know that I had no fantasy score to be added. So, and especially playing Dawson. I sort of put in Dawson for Sarong in theory. So I actually technically got that one wrong because I know Sarong didn't play that great, but Dawson had a much, much worse game. So that also hurt understanding that scenario as well.
Yeah, well, let's start with the two big boys for the Lions. They dominated. Neal kicks 3 goals. You don't see him do that a lot. Dunkley did it. Dunkley did it in just typical Dunkley form. Found lots of the footy, 8 marks, 5 tackles, which, as you called out, is a down week for him based on last week. But yeah, I don't know if many coaches would have rolled out 2, but I did like having at least one of them. And I think a lot of coaches would have gone Dunkley over Neal just because of his form of late. Zorko. I don't know we ever need to talk about him. He's just bang on about that. He's just really quite good. But yeah, on your side, the Dawson piece, because last week he had the excuse of, hey, I was tagged, but my team still won. This week he just didn't play well. Do you want to talk about it? Because you're probably watching him a bit closer than I was.
Yeah, I guess the simple thing was just the Lions were just better in that aspect of the field. In the clear, like Dawson just like wasn't getting his hands on any clearances. When there was ball ups, he was just never getting his hands on it either. He wasn't tackling very well in those situations as well, which is normally an area you can sort of lean on with Dawson. Like, all right, if he's not going to be playing well in terms of disposals, normally he'll at least lock down and get like maybe like 10 tackles or something like that. But we didn't quite see that. He only had the 4 tackles. He wasn't very involved with the marks. Like, he even went back at one point and got a kick in. He went back to his old days, Cal. He pushed all the way back and got a kick in.
Just quietly. It's the one I'm thinking about and the one that I saw. He kicked it like 80 meters. And I was like, yes, I missed that Jordan Dawson.
And it was a dot. It was an absolute dot as well. So, yeah, it was good to see him back where he started. His bread and butter used to be. But look, man, my issue with Dawson, sorry, before we move on, is that he has these games a little bit too often. Like, he has the games where he explodes, but this isn't the first time. I know you said last week, but even before then, this is not the first time I've seen him. In round 12, we saw a 75-point performance. In round 5, we saw a 74-point performance. He just has these lull games, and it's just part of his current fantasy production. He's so elite in so many weeks, but he will have this lull game once in a while, and it really hurts because you trust in him, and then you get stung.
If only there was a metric that calculated something like that we potentially are working on here at GDS that shows you
I
if a
need it right
player is
now.
like that. Yeah, we could call it the Jordan Dawson metric. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm looking at the CBA 67% for him. Can I give you some crazy ones? Because
Hit me.
Josh Dunkley and Lockie Neal were at 100%.
Whoa.
And Isaac Rankin was also at 100%. So Rankin did not show up on that list there in front of you. It was not because he didn't have the opportunity to get his hands on the footy. So
he still had 90 fantasy points as a forward, which, it's not the be all end all. But again, I'm so bullish on Rankin moving
it's a
forward. And
tough matchup. We spoke about it, right? Like if Rankin's going to be starting 100% of center bounces, he's coming in next week into my squad. I'm just looking at who they're playing next week. St Kilda.
Yeah.
Tough matchup. We'd need to see those Saints numbers, but yeah.
I'm starting him next week. I just think opportunity wise and the ceiling that he can get to, I don't want to miss out on another, like you did last week, a 150 Rankin performance, because there's going to be a couple of them, I think, this season to end it.
Yeah. A couple of other people. Danaher, who's actually been in the All-Star hunt as a forward, he scored 76, didn't kick a goal. So if you played him like you did, you played the silver. I didn't even realize. Talk about that. That would have hurt.
I just don't have a bronze, and the Taylor Adams thing came, and it was like seconds are ticking. And initially, it sort of hurt because I had a bronze Keys that was sitting there, and he ended up playing better. And I thought Danaher would be a better option than Keys. But what I didn't realize is Keys is going to come out and kick 4 goals.
Yeah.
So if I knew that, I might have just left the bronze Keys in. But I did downgrade Dawson from a silver to a bronze. So I guess overall, in theory, it doesn't hurt. But both of them stung big time, man.
Yeah, wow. That's interesting. But yeah, I obviously told you my story. I didn't have a bronze to even try and change my mind. I wasn't doing a Kerm late this afternoon. But the only other person I want to talk about in this game, just quickly, Will Ashcroft. He is going to be an absolute star. He's obviously just come back from his ACL. I don't have a lot of Will Ashcroft cards, and I need to get my hands on some because I have a feeling that if I don't, I never will. He's got a diamond sitting there for $150. I don't think it's. I don't know it gets cheaper than that. So
yeah, well, unfortunately, he's a midfielder. Otherwise, he would be potential to play him in your squads. But it would be pretty tough. But dynasty stud, let's say that. So no concerns there. You're gonna want to have one.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving forward. All right, Cal. I think that wraps us up quite well. Let's move it on. The snapshot. We've got our top 10. Oh, that's from last week, unfortunately. But
so we don't know what's happened here. I updated all these slides before, but take my word, we definitely did do it. Don't know why.
Okay, man. It's okay. Let's talk about something that you learned this round.
Can I give them to you just so we've got them? We got Brayshaw top 172, Neil 171, Nank 170, Dunkley 168, Rosie 167, Butters 160, Callum Wilkie, the sneaky how did I get here on 152, Tim English 152, and Sidebottom riding out the top 10 with 151. So
saucy top 10.
Saucy top 10. They are our top 10. Don't know we'll see Callum Wilkie back in there ever again. Everyone else?
What's your round snapshot, Kel? I want to know something you learned.
Yeah, I got one, and it's about the West Coast. I was alluding to it a couple of different times throughout the show. It's now at the point where not only is it do not play West Coast players. Sorry, not only is it play everyone you can against West Coast, it's now also do not play West Coast players.
So you're off Duggan.
Trust them. I'm not playing Duggan until I see West Coast get some level of confidence back. Because even after, I know he played well the week before, there's still that many good players that I can have confidence. I can't keep sitting there during West Coast games getting mad that my players who are good fantasy players and good players, i.e. Waterman, just not get the footy. And Duggan just was like, what am I doing out here? So, yeah, I would completely be avoiding them. And then also the other way, double down, whoever is up against West Coast, they are going to absolutely feast. So this week coming up, it's the Brisbane Lions. So, like, do you want to play Dunkley and Neil and Joey Danaher and Zorko? Do you want to find a fifth in there? Do you want Ashcroft in there if you're feeling good? Like, we're at that point of the season with West Coast. Changes might be coming sooner. So, yeah, that's my takeaway.
Yeah, I'm going to double down on a takeaway I had before, but it's time to start benching Caleb Sarong. The preseason form, the early season form that we saw from him is unfortunately no longer. When you're setting your best 6 midfielders for your rounds moving forward, I don't think Caleb Sarong should be in that list of people. So, look, there are so many good candidates and so many midfielders that are just absolutely killing it this season. Why risk it with someone like Sarong, who can be a bit up and down, and just take the safer option?
I like it.
Take a Dunkley, take a Taranto, for example. People who who haven't caught onto that train yet. Like, I much rather want a Taranto on my team right now than a Sarong Silva.
Yeah, and Brayshaw, right?
Which sounds weird to say because at the start of the year it was the complete flip. It was like, give me Sarong, no way I want Taranto.
Might need a phone call. You might need to call up Hef tomorrow and ask him, is it time? Is it time to get the Brayshaw back on the wall? Replace those GDS posters he has behind him on the Keeper League and get Andy Brayshaw back.
Cal, it's time to look at the round that just was. We had the biggest coaching calls. I think we spoke about a lot of them, honestly, throughout this round. Mine was, if it's a positive one, I'm going to go starting Tim English All-Star in a year where people aren't. I think your biggest call, unfortunately, is the opposite. It's benching your 2 special cards in the week where they played fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. We'll touch on it here in a second. Let's get into it now, actually.
Let's do it.
Do you reckon you beat me?
I do, only because as we were going through that, I just thought there was a couple of mistakes that you made. And I just think overall I should have a higher score. I don't think it's going to be by much. So this is my squad. Like, I haven't looked at the leaderboard at all.
Don't check it yet. Don't check it yet. Because what if I said I'd played All-Star, Sheasel, and prize card Rosie? You'd be, I've won. That's Probably. The difference. Yeah. I feel like you've got me, but let's see. Zoom in.
I do think it's honestly just that. I think it's literally just that.
All right. How'd we go?
Wow.
Oh.
I didn't do too great.
What did 44th. You get? Oh, no. You've beaten me. You've beaten me by 76 points.
No way.
Wow. This was a tough week.
Yeah, how about seasonal? Bulldogs. I'm still at 16. God, I'm just never going to move off this spot.
Shout out to Brucey's Bulldogs in the classic competition. I don't know. I've seen that name before, Tom. There's a couple in there. Bales Nails in 5th. Is that's our boy Bales?
Wow.
Yeah, I was getting mixed up with Bales now. Shout out Bales from Fantasy Fanatics over on YouTube. A good friend of the show. Bales. Potentially, some stuff down the pipeline with him. Stay tuned. But yeah, that is awesome.
Let's look at some other comps. I'm interested. I want to see Munko's Minions. Wow, taking out the top.
Nice.
He's fantastic. 123 for me here, so no better here.
No, I'm no good in any of these.
Challenger?
Bulldogs won the champion as well. What?
Brucey's Bulldogs has had a week to remember.
What? Shout out.
I actually think this is my worst round all around that I've had maybe this year.
Yeah, I tell you
Across the board, starter, classic, and challenger, the 3 I play.
Yeah, we said it was going to be one of those rounds where you needed to go big to, get a lot of this right because there were so many landmines throughout it. But no.
These are why, though. This person here, challenger, nah, challenger, nah. Mike Diamond Warner recently added no good. The Lizard, no good. Oh, that's tough.
This is insane. Yeah, that's awesome. Good fun week. But yeah, shout out to Brucey's Bulldogs, who was definitely the MVP across the whole GDS Aussie Rules platform side this week.
For sure. Well, Cal, first of all, get clapped again. I'm back, baby. Back in Australia. Sit your ass down. I'm back. I'm back on top. You'll never win again this season.
I don't know if you think that's true, but
I do.
Yeah.
I know it's true. Let's get a wrap us up, Cal. Look, we've got next week to look forward
just to get some dubs back.
On a,
Summer league starting soon, right?
yeah, true. Mate, round 17 was tough for both of us, unfortunately. Clearly, other people were nailing it, though, and must have missed a lot of those landmines that we sort of stepped into, unfortunately. So, well done to all of our winners in GameDay Squad for a round that was, pretty tough to navigate. Clearly, you were the best of the best, and you've come out on top there. So, kudos to you. But, Cow, mate, that'll wrap us up. Round 17 review for the Aussie Rules game here on GameDay Squad. Hopefully, you took a lot of the takeaways that we got from this round, looking at the numbers and the stats, and you can apply a lot of this into next week. But of course, we're going to be back next week on Thursday night doing the round preview, where we're going to have a look at the squads that get named and then set our best lineup heading in to round 18. So, Cal, cheers for taking your time of the night, mate, to come on, as always. And
thanks for having me, mate. Pleasure.
No worries. We'll catch you all on Thursday in the live. Hey, cheers, everyone.